I'm going to discuss about the software configuration management process. So when we take a process, the given 5 process determines the overall configuration management that undergoes through different process. And the first one is the planning. The process starts from the planning, and then the analysis phase, then the designing phase, then implementation phase, and the last one is a testing and integration phase. So this is overall process in a software engineering. So when we go through this configuration management process, it relates to some primary objectives, like need to identify all the different modules. What are the modules that is being related to the software development team, and how many members are being involved in each and every particular team, and the how they manage the changes that happens weekly once or can be monthly once due to the software changes due to the software updation. There can be many changes happening of many changes in case of technology and in case of people management. So this software configuration management has to undergo through some process, whereas when it come across through different versions of different applications, and in case of maintenance, software maintenance, each and everywhere this configuration management plays a major role, because managing the entire scenario is a huge task. So these are the main objectives. The first is need to identify all items, or need to identify each modules, manage the changes, then facilitate the construction of the different increase in versions, and the next one is the maintenance. And these are the main primary objectives. Then when it comes to the process, some issues related to this, how the configuration management process take place, some questions can arise. So here a few questions are being asked. You also can give think of your own answers. How does a software team identify the discrete elements of a software configuration? So when you take a software elements, it can be the multimedia elements, it can be the real world elements other than multimedia. So all these elements which can be divided into small module can be given as input to the software development team. So how do they handle, how the team handles all this kind of elements? How does an organization manage these kind of versions? So when we start developing the software, we start with the version 1.0. For example, we start with version 1.0. Then how can if 2.0 increase, if version increases by 2.0 or 3.0, so how does the entire team manages the entire scenario? So that is a main addressing issues that happens when an changes occurs. How does an organization control these changes? Who has a responsibility? Either the admin has a responsibility for improving, or based upon the ranking purpose, who has a responsibility? And either the vendor or the development team. So make sure that the responsible team who has to be the responsible, who has to own the responsibility. How can we ensure that changes have been made properly? So that is another one concern. What kind of mechanism is being used to appraise the people who are working within that particular team? So these are the other main configuration management process. So here you can see an architecture aspects. Here you can see the center core is the main interface. So here there are few small identical small modules. So that is the core, it's the heart of the SCM process. First is identification. So getting the knowledge of what kind of data are we going to handle, what kind of informations are going to give, So that is the main purpose behind it, identification. Then change control, getting the details of change management. Then version control, so knowing the increase in version. And next one is configuration auditing, going through weekly auditing or monthly auditing or once in a 6 months. So when an updation is under process, they can go for an auditing, the previous versions, how many tasks has been completed, what kind of time duration they have taken. And the last one is a reporting, so they can have the entire documentation process, so that the head of the or the boss of that particular team, he can able to analyze and monitor how much work or what's the percentage of work that has been completed, and so on and so forth. And when it comes to the object identification, it has two types. One is the basic objects that can be identified, and aggregate objects. So these are the two main objects that we can identify. Basic objects, and this is if you take a vehicle, the car as an object, and the other things. If you take an construction, means house. So when it comes to the aggregate objects, so it goes to the technical aspects. So that is another main perspective behind this identifying the objects. And here you can see a class diagram, the format for a class diagram, how we can identify an objects. So when you take a class diagram, first initialize the name of the class, and then its attributes, and then its method. So when we take a inter class objects, so an class can be identified by its object name of an object, and it can be given as a part of the analysis model. And the next one is a data model. So when we take the data model, how the data flows, so it's from starting till the end, what are the different process it goes through, what is the data flow, is there any control statements in between that. So it undergoes through many data process. And the next one is a version control. When it comes under this version control, it combines different types of procedures and tools that can manage easily. And also when it comes to the repository, it stores each and every modules of data that can be given as input to the database. And when we take the change control, it has to balance. So if it doesn't balance with the real-time scenario and the existing module, means no, you cannot further proceed. You have to stop. If you couldn't able to overcome the test cases, you cannot able to proceed. So that is the main aspect of this change control. So here this is a data flow process of a change control. So we need a change that is being recognized, change request from the user, then the developer evaluates the change that is being taken from the user, change report is being generated, the change control is being taken from the senior authorities, and if the request is more, it can be queued for action, and it can be given for the second process. And then here in process 2, and assign the people, then check out the software configuration integration management, make the changes, and if you want to audit the change, we can audit it, then test it, and then proceed for the third change control process. So here the testing continues with the check-in, then it can be given for the next release, then rebuild appropriate version, or you can increment the version, then audit the change, include all the changes in the release. So the last one is auditing. So when it comes under the auditing, three main auditing modules are there. One is for software configuration management integration, plan, and the change request. So these are the three main components that can be integrated with auditing, because the report of this auditing plays a major role, or it can be an input for the next software increment. because if any modules has to be updated, that has to be a report that to be generated from the auditing team. So then only if any issues are there, easily we can able to clarify it. So these are the main aspects of software configuration management from the starting till this auditing aspects. It plays an inter process which goes through the go through the entire process, and then easily we can go for the increment, the software increment for a better future. Thank you.